So, the first official season of Marvel Rivals came and went, and now we are looking at the start of Season 2. But Season 1 and 1.5 gave us a lot of content and changes that helped make the game a little better. Taking the feedback from Season 0, the devs went forward and delivered an absolutely amazing first season for the game. I'm lucky to have stayed around long enough to experience all the changes and additions that were made to the game. It continuously improves, and I want to see this game thrive more and more as we go into a new season. Hopefully, Season 2 delivers for us all the same, but only time will tell. Hi again, and it has been quite a season for Marvel Rivals. Season 1 and 1.5 have been loaded with content for the players, giving us new maps and characters as well as new cosmetics for everyone to enjoy, and new game modes that made its rounds. Now that we're approaching Season 2, I thought that it would be a nice little surprise for me to give a small update on my thoughts and opinions of the game. I released a video on December 31st of last year that talks a bit about my experience with the first few weeks in Season 0, and a lot of things have changed since then. This will mainly be a review of the first season, but I'll probably dip into the end of Season 0 as well. Maybe you won't agree with me, but these opinions were formed based on my experience as a casual player. As always, you're entitled to your own opinion, but I ask that you respect mine as I would yours. There will be a card at the end of this video that will take you to one just like it, but for now, let's begin. Season 1, and subsequently 1.5, had some very nice changes and additions to the game, which definitely made it a bit more fantastic. This season, we welcomed the Fantastic Four as the newest additions to the hero roster. Over the course of the two-part season, all of the members of this group have been free to play and are wonderful additions to the roster. Season 1 gave us Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman, a duelist and strategist respectively. As the lovely couple made their way into the first half of Season 1, everyone was ecstatic to meet them. They made their way into games with a bang, being the dynamic duo that took on teams with ease. Reed and Sue are back to fighting baddies, using their powers for good while also helping stop the eternal night looming over the lands. Season 1.5 added the other two members, Human Torch and The Thing, our second duelist of the season and Vanguard respectively. This dynamic duo joined the roster bashing heads and each other. A friendship of the elements helped spice up the battlefield banter, and although they might not always get along, these brothers will do anything to bring each other home safely. I really appreciated getting the whole cast at once, even though 4 characters feels like too many to get at one time. It wouldn't make sense to release 2 or 3 of the cast at once and leave the other 1 or 2 out of the roster, so I could respect the decision to add everyone in one season. Spreading out the characters over 2 different parts of the season was a move I greatly appreciated. Getting all of these characters at once would have been overwhelming, especially since everyone would be locking them in and have no idea what to do. And don't even talk about people playing them in a competitive game. Having everyone lock in the new heroes would be a walking -20 for me. It was weird to see that these characters were immediately accessible in competitive. I know games like Valorant and Apex allow characters day 1, but I have to applaud Overwatch for their decision to leave characters locked out of competitive for a short duration after their initial release. I'm not sure I agree with the decision to allow them in comp immediately, since a lot of people will lock in the new characters as soon as they came out in a competitive match. It did give my duo and I a huge advantage though, since I was pretty good with Invisible Woman when she dropped, so I can't complain too much. I've played all of these characters at least once, and I even hit Lord on Invisible Woman, so I'll give my opinion on all of them. Mr. Fantastic is the most underwhelmingly overwhelming character in the game. He isn't incredibly powerful, and while balanced, he isn't what I'd consider amazing. I think he definitely fits into the fun to play, but not for competitive category. His kit is interesting, even if not great in its effectiveness or power. Nothing about him puts him above other meta characters. He feels intentionally clunky, if that makes sense. While his kit works wonderfully and is fleshed out as well as it could be, his movements feel choppy and slow, almost like a rubber band. It definitely helps when thinking of the power of elasticity. I can definitely see it with his primary, and all of his abilities have something to do with that in some unique way, which is absolutely hilarious and something I've never seen in a game before. Invisible Woman is one of the most boring characters to play and lacks any of the qualities that make a character fun. Maybe I'm biased since I non-stop played her to Lord, but her kit is plain boring. She's one of those invincibility ult strategists, which just makes her a loser by default. Everything in her kit is either her healing or doing damage. Nothing about her kit screams unique or stands out. I do like that you have to perk her invisibility a lot, and her shield is a hard ability to use and manage correctly. Not to mention that her boomerang primary is pretty interesting with healing allies and damaging enemies. She's definitely a high skill ceiling character, but holy shit if playing her does not give me a hernia. But she does lose good boy points because of her ultimate, because I hate invincibility ults as someone who likes to have fun. Human Torch was someone who I initially thought was extremely underwhelming, and yet I still bought a skin for him. While his kit was fun, it definitely didn't feel as good as the other aerial characters that I would rather play. His fire was a hazard on the battlefield, and I like that they made his primary fire a type of shotgun equivalent, and I like that he reloads if he hits someone, which is a concept they should have used for Storm in some capacity. Outside of that though, his kit isn't really hazardous. I only died to his ultimate twice, and I was already super low, so I was one shot from anything. His ultimates don't feel that dangerous, and I really feel like he's just there to help boost Storm with their team up. I never really had any huge impact, and playing him was fun until I realized that he's pretty mid. I feel like when he doesn't have the same flight capabilities as Iron Man, there's a bit of an issue. He has to get super close, and it's pretty easy to hit. The thing is, I think playing as Grimm is definitely interesting. I love that he's another Brawl character, and they made him unique in that aspect. His kit is pretty simple, and it definitely gives him similar vibes to the Hulk, but he's still different enough that I don't feel crazy playing him. It is a bit boring though, since everyone only uses his ult fire instead of his primary, as it does more damage, and I think it also gives you more ult charge. It kind of makes all Thing players have no unique playstyle on the character, and he always plays the same, and as much as I love his kit, it doesn't feel like it stands out. I couldn't stomach playing the Hulk in the practice range because I thought he was super boring, but I actually enjoyed the times I played the Thing. We're going to ignore the fact that I was horrible at him, but I enjoyed him nonetheless. But at the same time, there are aspects of the two of them that are a little too similar for my liking. The Thing's pretty good, but I would still rather have a Hulk on my team just because I think he's a fundamentally better character. And I really do think it's weird that whenever I play Adam Warlock against the Thing, he targets me with his sprint. You know me. Adam Walking Speed Warlock getting hit with the ability that cancels movement. I also have to point out here that all 4 characters dropped with some of the most fantastic, pun not intended, drop skins I've seen since this game launched. I never thought I would get to see Malice and have it be fan service. Her ass is on full display, and I mean like her cheeks are out. I am so glad that this game is third person because it is the only thing that made her worth playing for as many hours as I did. I'm a woman, by the way, so it's not weird. It is going to be weird when I talk about the fact that I think Johnny looks hot in his little gladiator fit. Ignoring the fact that he had worms stitching him back together at some point during that whole situation, I'm just saying that the fit kinda goes hard. But they also did a really good job at adding enough of a twist to the outfit to keep it recognizable, but make it look a lot better than it was. And it looks so good with its fire effect, which is something that I usually don't see done well in games. Redropped with a skin that looks so good and has just as good of a backstory to it. I love my little psychopath, and I think that the design team stayed so true to its original design while also making it a little interesting and engaging. They managed to make gray an interesting color, too, which was a really great feat that was executed wonderfully. I like that both he and Sue got skins that reflect some of their worst sides and show just how bad the good guys can be. I really didn't think I would need to add the Thing's drop skin opinion because I think everyone unanimously agrees that Ben Grimm rocks the trench coat. I actually think that this is probably one of the best skins in the game thus far. The fedora paired with the glasses just means the skin is peak. The camera that Ben also has, peak. I don't think anything I say will do the skin justice. Anyways, that really sums up my opinions on the Fantastic Four. I wanted to keep it brief, but I think I said everything I needed to say. If you are considering playing any of these characters and have yet to do so, the order of fun that I would put them in is as follows. Number 1, The Thing. Number 2, Mr. Fantastic. Number 3, Human Torch. Number 4, Invisible Woman. I think if I talk about Season 1, I have to talk about the mess that was Twitch Rivals. Twitch Rivals had a Marvel Rivals tournament organized by Twitch, and it was a disaster. And just to make sure we're clear, Marvel Rivals had no part in it. It was entirely on Twitch. I still think it was an important event of Season 1, however, so I will be talking about it briefly. During the middle of January, Twitch hosted a small Marvel Rivals tournament for streamers and content creators to play in, which invited 72 different players divided into 12 teams. The initial rules for the tournament stated that they could only have 2 players of GM and above, meaning that the rest of the team had to consist of plat or lower ranked players. All of the teams who were invited while this rule was in place had followed that guideline and created teams. However, a week before the tournament, they changed it to 4 players GM and above. Content creator and high-ranked player Boger changed around his team and invited 2 more higher-ranked players to play with them. This meant that Boger's team had a bunch of eternity-ranked players and were going up against people who were there to have fun and enjoy the tournament. It felt as though it was more of a pro-player tournament, and it took away from the content creators who were learning and having fun with the game since they were getting stomped. Valkyrae, who hadn't changed her team since the rule changed, was less than happy with the changes made since her team was now at a competitive disadvantage. She voiced her concerns on stream and through tweets, mentioning that Twitch Rivals has always been scuffed and that this rule change was no exception. Then, a day before the tournament was set to begin, Twitch Rivals reverted the rules back to having 2 GM plus players. This left Boger's team, and many others, scrambling to change their teams around with less than 24 hours. That meant that KG and ML7 had to be kicked from Boger's team. Simultaneously, a popular streamer Sykkuno was initially placed onto Boger's team through Twitch. Boger actually spent some time coaching Sykkuno, and he also ran scrims with him on the team during the time leading up to the tournament. However, the day before, Boger was alerted that Saikuno had hit Diamond the season before and couldn't play on his team as a Plat, so Boger had to kick him off the team. Dokibird, a VTuber and content creator, also had her own team that had over 2 GM players on it. With the change being made the day before, Doki removed herself from her own team so that her teammates could play since she believed that they deserved the money and exposure more. Please note that she was invited to the tournament at the last minute when the rule was changed to having 4 GM plus players and had no knowledge of the previous rule. Doki had messaged staff to make sure that her team was within guidelines and was given the okay, even making sure to check that her team was all set before officially confirming them. She organized scrims, did VOD reviews, and made strategies, but unfortunately Twitch reverted the rules last minute. So this whole event was a complete disaster with countless rule changes putting people at disadvantages and no one was having a decent time. I should also mention that apparently this pro player rule also applied to anyone who played Overwatch. So if you were a high rank there but a low rank in Marvel Rivals, you could not compete if there were already 2 GM players on a team. Apparently, it was because the games were super similar, so they didn't want anyone who was high rank in Overwatch but low rank in Marvel Rivals dominating the competition. I want to point out, I don't think in any way, shape, or form that this is Boger's fault. He took advantage of the rule change when it happened, but that change should have never happened in the first place. Even though Boger's team was stupidly stacked, it was technically within the rules at the time. And that same sentence goes out to Valkyrae. She had valid concerns about the team composition and rule changes, and she had a big point. Twitch taking action because of her complaints is not on her. Boger made a video on the whole situation, and I think it's pretty well said, so please check that out in case I missed anything here. I also think Dokibird has a stream up somewhere that talks about it a bit, but I don't know where to find it. I don't even want to think about the relationships between the people who were getting added and kicked from teams. Not only was that very confusing, but it probably was very hard to kick these people from the teams that they just got invited into. It's definitely upsetting for players who wanted to play, but it's also extremely stressful for the people who had to kick not only their other players, but friends off the team the day before the event. I have massive respect for Doki, who took herself out of the situation. As the big streamer in that situation, it was very respectable for her to allow her team the opportunity at success, and I really do have to applaud her for that decision. Honestly, this event was a disaster. Twitch should have never changed the rules in the first place, and when they did make their initial rule change, that should have been the end of it. Sure, it would have sucked for people who didn't want to change their teams, but constantly changing the rules makes it more confusing every time you do it. Everything should have been handled a lot better, and I don't think any of the content creators or players are to blame for any of this. Boger took advantage of the situation, Valkyrae gave valid and necessary criticism, but at the end of the day, Twitch was making it worse for everyone. I'm like 90% sure that's everything important from the event. If I missed anything or any information is wrong, feel free to fact check me. I don't think there's really anything else to say in this regard, but hopefully if they do another event in the future, it actually is thought through. Or if they could leave the event planning to the professionals. Just a thought. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this, but there were 2 new maps that were added to the game. In Season 1, we had Empire of Eternal Night, Midtown added, which was a convoy map. If you don't know what that mode is, one team escorts a vehicle to the end of the map while the other team tries to stop them from doing so. It's basically Rivals' take on Escort from Overwatch, but this specific map takes place in New York. Basically, the Darkhold's pages, that funky little book that turns people cuckoo crazy, were scattered during Dracula's shenanigans and him turning everyone into vampires. This is where people met up to help find a solution on how to resolve the conflict, including the Montesi formula. Stark and Reed disagreed on how to use it, but eventually it ends up with everyone using Herbie to locate all of the pages and use them to help unfuck all of Dracula's shit. In Season 1.5, we had Empire of Eternal Night, Central Park, added to the game, which was a convergence map. And if you don't know what that mode is, it's basically convoy, but you have to capture a point first, that point having 3 checkpoints that you need to complete before you can move on to the convoy part. It's basically a hybrid from Overwatch, if it was better. In Central Park, Dracula is being a bigger bitch than normal, having his castle built in the middle of the park and taking prisoners, my Goat Blade and Ratatoskr included. Dracula decides he wants to use the Darkhold, and he's going to do some funky shit with it all while he's surrounded by some nice barrier to keep people out. Luckily though, Ratatoskr's horn is able to pierce through that bitch, and you escort her across the map to the end. Either way, Dracula's plans are foiled at the end, and it all depends on if the barrier is broken or if Moon Knight decides he wants his money back now. If I'm being completely honest, the maps are pretty good. The visuals on them are just amazing, and they both feel a lot more unique in comparison to the maps that were released with the game's launch. The colors are also really dull, which matches the theme of the season. They did a really good job with the theming, and it feels like Dracula is scheming, and it feels like there's an eternal night happening. The background buildings are also really bring it together, since they don't cheese out on the environment or background. I am excited to see if once this whole Dracula mess is over and Moon Knight gets his money, if maybe the color will return to the map or if the map even stays past the season. I think it'd be really interesting if it didn't, but I do like the maps, so hopefully they stay. I also really like the fact that the maps aren't overly complicated. There is one part on the Empire of Eternal Night Central Park map that allows you to teleport to 2 different locations, but it's the same as if you just walked through one of the 2 pathways to get back to point. There's no weird overpasses or loops to get anywhere, and all of the buildings make everything direct. There's also some things that I don't like about the maps, however. The first thing is that the buildings reconstruct really quickly and super often. Oftentimes, I will be in a fight or I'll be walking, and a structure will reconstruct while I'm in it, oftentimes trapping me in a place that I don't want to be or putting me on a different elevation. The difference between these and other maps, though, is that these reversions happen more consistently and more often than other maps. It's also jarring if I'm about to hit a nasty shot on someone and all of a sudden I'm on a different plane of existence. I also have to say that fighting in certain areas can be super painful depending on what side you're on. There are some areas that, to me, don't feel extremely balanced. That could just be me, but there are a few areas that don't feel like they were designed well. Some areas have too much stuff, while others don't have any. From a design standpoint, it is definitely different. And although I've had a lot of issues with it, it might not be a completely terrible thing, but rather just terrible moments for me. Overall, I think the map designs are pretty cool, and I like that they're best in Eternal Night. I wonder what's going to happen once the issue with Dracula is resolved, and I look forward to seeing if the maps are changed in any way or if those are stuck in time. Either way, I'm going to be really happy to see what happens next. That's really everything I have about the new maps, but I did want to talk about the game modes that were released. During Season 1 and 1.5, we got 2 different game modes that were released temporarily. Season 1 dropped us Clash of the Dancing Lions, which dropped with an event called Fortune and Colors. In order to celebrate the Year of the Dragon at the time, a soccer-like game mode was dropped with purchasable cosmetics that you could get through the store. In the game mode, 2 teams of 3 competed to score the most goals in a soccer-equivalent setting. You get the choice to play as Black Widow, Iron Fist, or Star-Lord, who are dripped out for the occasion with modified abilities. The goal is to score 10 points, and the first team to do so wins. The goal is split up into 3 sections, and depending on where you scored, determines how many points you got, and yes, you have to walk the ball in. You can't launch it. It's basically soccer, or for those of you who don't go outside, Rocket League. In Season 1.5, we got a separate game mode called Clone Rumble, which dropped with an event called Galacta's Cosmic Adventure. If you ever played Valorant, it was Replication. If you don't know what that is, imagine 10 Jeffs ulting at the same time. Each team could select a character that they wanted to play, and one would be randomly selected. From there, if both teams chose a separate character, both teams could play either of the characters that were selected. If only one character was selected, that was the only option. Basically, each game is a best of 3 on the map Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda, Vernon T'Challa. There were also certain characters that you couldn't play, which consisted of characters whose abilities would not be supported if cast too many times, such as Strange's Portal or Loki's clones. There are also a ton of abilities that would keep people alive and unkillable, so those characters were also disabled. It really made for quite the unique experience. Unlike my opinions on the maps, I actually have different opinions for each of the game modes. Clash of the Dancing Lions was the game mode I actually enjoyed. I wouldn't say that it went too crazy, but it was pretty fun. The game mode itself was simplistic, and through removing a lot of the kit, I felt like I wasn't completely overwhelmed. The 3 characters that were chosen were fun to play, and even though the selection is weird, I think that they all mesh well together and work with the mode. I also liked how simplistic everything was. There was no extreme mechanics or anything, and I was either passing the ball or running it towards the goal if I wasn't trying to stop the enemy from doing so. Overall, the game mode was nice, and I enjoyed playing all the different characters and seeing how they could utilize their kits to gain the advantage. Although, I do have to ask why we had 2 white dudes and an Asian guy playing soccer in Wakanda. That I will not understand, but I will let it slide because it looked cool. Clone Rumble was a bit of a different story. Unfortunately, I was not a fan of the mode. To be fair, the one time I jokingly locked in Jeff, we got it, and I spent the whole game just torpedoing across the map. Other than that, though, I was on characters that I didn't like playing or didn't know how to play, and it was not great practice. Sometimes I would try to be funny with my character selection, but everyone else would be the better character out of the 2, so I was monumentally fucked. To me, playing on the same map over and over makes it super boring, and I absolutely despise the map anyways, so this didn't help at all. To be entirely honest, I don't really have advice for how to improve the mode. I do think it would be funny if it was a best of 12 choices, so only one person got to select the character, or at least make it so that whatever character your team selects is the only character your team can pick, and allow me to play Adam Warlock in that mode because that would be hilarious. Besides that, I really don't have an issue with it, it just wasn't my cup of tea. Both modes gave certain rewards, and both of them were pretty cool. I got a skin out of each event, so I can't really complain on the cosmetic side of it. I won't really touch upon that, but they were both attaining by playing the game mode a bit and doing some challenges, and the skins were absolutely amazing, so I can't complain about the quality either. I am looking forward to seeing what game modes are added in the future. I definitely think there are plenty of ideas out there, and hopefully I see a more permanent game mode outside of Doom Match soon, but that's all I have to say about the 2 game modes that were added. I'm not going to yap for too long on this section, but this was a pretty decent section in my last video, and I wanted to update it real quick. First of all, the cosmetics we've gotten this season are absolutely wonderful. The amount of detail and beauty that went into these are insane. I have never seen skins in a video game look this good outside of Apex Legends, and that game has been doing stunning cosmetics for years. There's been an extremely steady presence of cosmetics being added to the game, and they've been added in multiple ways. Some were added through the store on a regular rotation, usually being 2 at a time. Others have been added through some small events that allowed you to get the skins for free. As always, we've had our Will of Galactus skins that you could get through Twitch drops, also for free. And finally, if you play competitive and hit gold or above, you do get a skin for a certain character. No matter what though, there's always a rotation of skins going around, and there are vastly different themes for a large number of characters. So basically, if you cannot receive skins through monetary purchase, there are ways for you to get some skins for free. I really like the system since a lot of games nowadays focus on microtransactions and don't do much to aid in providing good skins for free. Apex Legends does not add free legendary skins outside of the core ones that you can access through Apex packs and crafting medals. Rather, any event skin that does not cost money is an epic or lower rarity. And for someone like me who is a glutton for character design, that kinda sucks. So props to Marvel Rivals for not being like that. And while talking about the store of Marvel Rivals, we got some skins in the store and Battle Pass that relate to the season, which I really enjoyed. I feel like there's always a tiny lack of skins in relation to the theme, but I'm not complaining since all of the skins are bangers. I also want to add that in my first video talking about Marvel Rivals, I spoke about not seeing any of the cosmetics from the beta. Luckily though, throughout Season 1 and 1.5, I've seen many of them come back, such as the Spider-Punk 2099, President Loki, Steam Power, and Bounty Hunter. I'm sure there are some that I'm missing, but they will most likely be added to the game if they haven't already. The last main point I will talk about is the actual Battle Pass. I didn't want to give it its own section because it's not going to be a long conversation. This Battle Pass was absolutely stunning. The skins are relatively related to the theme of Eternal Night, with the exception of a few. This is where we also got some of the beta skins, which happens to be Rocket's Bounty Hunter skin. We got a couple skins relating to the theme of the season, some free skins for people to enjoy, and a hint of a possible Hellfire Gala skin line coming out with Scarlet Witch, and it was actually confirmed to be the theme of Season 2. I'm still gonna need that Disco Dazzler skin line though. But the Battle Pass was stacked with plenty of items and cosmetics to enjoy, and honestly, I don't think there's a single skin in the Battle Pass that is bad. Every skin has its own unique charm, and I can't wait to see what they do to the next Battle Passes. It also made Adam look like King Baldwin a little bit, so I gotta respect it. Touching briefly upon Season 2, since that also has been released as of me editing my script, the Battle Pass there is also fantastic. I am absolutely in love with most of the skins there, and once again, the design team did not miss. It is for the Hellfire Gala, but I absolutely adore all of the skins that have been shown thus far, and none of the designs have been anything less than beautiful. We also got to see some of the shop skins from Season 2 trailer, which weren't announced with the official release of the Battle Pass, so I'm excited to see how and when they release. This might be my favorite Battle Pass out of the 3 we've gotten thus far, and I haven't even seen everything. But keep a lookout, because it comes out sooner rather than later. Overall, I don't really have a lot to add about the cosmetics outside of the fact that they keep improving, and I'm really excited to see what gets added as we go on. Hopefully, the game continues to grow and maintain the level of design that it's been providing, but I feel like I'm going to repeat a lot of what I've said in my previous video, so I'm going to leave this part here. I actually started grinding competitive towards the end of Season 0 since I wanted to get the Moon Knight skin that you got when you hit Gold 3. So I queued up with my Pookie and we hit the grind to get that sweet reward. I actually ended up hitting Gold like 5 days before the season ended, so I was able to become Mr. Moon. Please take my ranked thoughts with a grain of salt since I don't play this game competitively like I do Valorant. I tried to only play competitive for the rewards and I play mainly to improve. I don't grind it out like crazy. My original video only describes my first experience playing competitive, but I've definitely grown from that one time I've played Penny unwillingly. Now I play Penny and Doctor Strange unwillingly. That's character growth. Let me start by explaining a bit about the ranked system. There's this huge issue with how Marvel Rivals does the ranking system. Unlike other games, which tend to place you in certain ranks depending on your performance in placement matches, Marvel Rivals starts every player who hits level 10 in Bronze 3. That means that players who haven't even touched the game mode but could be Grandmaster or something are actually stuck in the lowest rank without having touched the game mode. That's why if you look at the statistics of the ranks in the game, it's a little wonky. The average of players should be in the silver or gold area. That whole thing needs to change. I think they should pull a Valorant and give you 5 placement matches that determine which rank you start in. That way, your Bronze 3 rank isn't just thrust upon you. If you're a really good player and you start in Bronze, you are going to be up against Bronze players. You are going to fly out of the ranks, but it's also going to be a miserable experience because you know you're not supposed to be there and you're practically curb stomping children. So not only is it unenjoyable because it's too easy, you also have to spend the time getting out of the rank and you get to ruin other people's elo, which is not your fault, because you don't belong there. Now, between Season 0 and 1, they did a rank reset that, instead of redetermining any placements, simply moved you down 7 ranks. That meant that if you were Diamond 2, you went all the way down to Silver 3. If you were Gold 3 and below, you went back down to the bottom rank. Now people who are Bronze and Silver normally were up against people who were previously a much higher rank. Luckily, with Season 1.5, they were encouraged by the community to not do that again, so I was hoping they would change that come Season 2. Unluckily for me, as I'm editing my script, they announced that everyone is getting moved down 9 ranks. But they are adding hero band systems to Gold 3 and above, so we take what we can get. So let me talk about my ranked experience from the end of Season 0 up through 1.5. Let me say this out the gate. It is easy to get out of low elo. Like, it is really easy to grind out the metal ranks. Once I started taking the game a little more seriously, it only took me about 2 days to get out of silver, and that is still when I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't really have to grind, and I think it took me a maximum of 15 games, which could be explained since our losses were usually us getting rolled by players who should have definitely been a higher rank than silver. But usually fights win in our favor, and it was pretty easy for me to adapt my Overwatch and Valorant game sense and apply it to the mechanics of this game. I can admit that I struggled a bit in Bronze, but that was when the game first dropped competitive and everyone was playing the mode. Those people who are now top 500 players were the people I was playing against in Bronze, so I could admit that going up against Tens Jr. every 3 games was a little frustrating and ended in quite a few losses. But once time had passed and all of the ranked grinders had hit their respective ranks, all that was off the table and I was climbing out easily. I practically breezed through Bronze and Silver, and that only took about a week of me taking a break from the mode. Eventually though, I got to Gold without much hassle. I did have 1 or 2 setbacks during the grind through Gold. My biggest issue was that during one of my games, Marvel Rivals crashed and in turn crashed my whole computer. I had to restart my PC and rejoin the game, which took me about 2 or 3 minutes in total. That left me AFK in the game until I was able to rejoin. I made it back just as the enemy team was hitting the first checkpoint. We ended up going into overtime and we absolutely dominated when it was our turn to defend, and we won the game easily. I was duo queuing with my Pookie at the time, and she got over 50 RR for the game. The issue is that I got 0. I received nothing, and yet my stat line was far above my Pookie's and anyone else's on the enemy team. Yet because the game couldn't tell if I disconnected on my own volition or by accident, I wasn't able to get the RR I deserved. I didn't gain a single thing, but luckily I didn't get a comp ban or be timed out. I won't lie, I was going to lose my shit over that. My impact on my team was so monumental, which isn't a debate because I was the only reason why our tanks lived through anything. I took my team on my shoulders and dragged them across the finish line, and I put my schlussy into that game. Of course, that's no offense to my Pookie, but I was on Sue at the time. My job was solely to keep my tanks alive, which I did pretty fucking well. My Pookie did I as well. Honestly, the game needs to figure out when the fuck people disconnect and why they do it. I can't keep getting penalized for things I cannot control. But luckily, after that, it was a pretty straight shot into Platinum. There were no trials or tribulations in Gold that I couldn't overcome, and my time in Plat was pretty average. We had our tough battles, but we also had our absolute easiest victories. I feel like the games that I've had getting into Plat 2, my current rank at the time of making this video, have been pretty evenly matched, and the games were good and fair. It was a series of wins and losses, but now a lot of the mistakes that were made previously now have a bigger impact, which helped me improve and work on my playstyle. I don't really have a lot of complaints about the competitive system outside of what I've already said, but my experience in competitive has been a lot better now that I've started locking in the character I wanted to play. I have filled more than a few games since my duo never wants to swap, so I'm also getting more versatile with my characters, which is helpful in the grand scheme of things. I do think that there should be a little time period where all of the characters are locked and you cannot instantly lock them in. That way you can discuss with your team what compositions you want to do and who you play before you get someone who mutes the whole team and insta-locks Spider-Man just to go 2-17. It's also hard if you have someone on your team who is an OTP, because if someone locks in before they can't play the only character they know how to play, you lose the game or they throw a bitch fit. Honestly, being an OTP should be enough to get a ban. Anyways, I think that the game should add an option that displays your preferred role. What I mean is that there should be little icons below your names with the little symbols of the roles you are comfortable playing. That way we can avoid role queue, but also allow people to display what they are most comfortable with to help build compositions. It's just something I thought of that could be helpful to allow people to lock in the characters they feel better on and who might be okay with flexing for the team. The main goal of this is so that I don't get shit on when I have to fill tank when I put every role but that. You cannot flame my Magneto when I specifically say that I am filling the role because we have 3 supports who don't know how to hit their shots. That'll probably end up as its own video, but that's not the point. At the end of the day, we want to have fun with the game. I understand that competitive is not the place for whimsy and joy, but I should be enjoying the game while taking it seriously. Obviously, I'm not going to be fucking around, but I want to enjoy playing the game instead of being frustrated that the tickle monster in our backline has fucking backup. Adam Warlock can only do so much before my mans runs out of ammo, and I think this game does a pretty good job at being fun while also remaining competitive. Overwatch had definitely sensed the competition that Marvel Rivals dropped on it when it first came out. Rivals came out with a bang, with a large number of characters in a 6v6 game mode that puts Overwatch's sequel to shame. The characters and cosmetics were unique and equipped with the abilities that made the game not only interesting but fun to play, and Overwatch, which was currently in one of its lowest states, felt the burn. Marvel Rivals kept the game fresh, adding destructive environments and the brand new concept of team-up abilities to give the game a bit more of an identity, not to mention that Marvel Rivals was dropping free cosmetics as long as you played certain game modes. In response to the free skins Rivals dropped, we actually got 3 free skins from Overwatch, and I can guarantee you that wasn't originally the plan. I assume that the skins were originally supposed to be store cosmetics, but when Marvel Rivals dropped the free skins, I bet that Blizzard felt they had to step up and improvise to try and one-up them. I mentioned it in the past, but competition is a good thing for video games. It makes other companies strive to be better because their opposition is doing a good job and people are gravitating towards it, forcing the original companies to put in the work to keep their players loyal. Overwatch didn't have any other game to put it in check, so when Marvel Rivals dropped, it put the pressure on Overwatch to perform. The game didn't have anything else to compare it to, making it one of its kind. Now that it does, Overwatch has to make sure that it looks good in comparison, forcing the devs to make changes. I also want to reiterate that the sequel is completely pointless. We were promised a new story mode that was practically a campaign that takes place in the Overwatch universe, where we could play as characters and learn a little bit more about their lore as well as what's been going on. I was actually excited for that, and I paid for the bundle, and I got cheated out of $15 that I could have used for something more productive, like alcohol. It doesn't help that everything in the game is basically put behind a paywall. There's nothing free in the game, despite the fact that it's free to play. All of the cosmetics cost money, and the ones that are free in the battle pass are things that you would never even use. I still don't know what the hell a souvenir is or what its purpose is besides filling up blank spaces in a battle pass that they could have just shortened. Not only that, but they made the game 5v5, and I have to say that as much as I try to stay neutral, 5v5 is what essentially killed the game. Having one less tank made the game unbearable for literally everyone, and 6v6 is just so much better. I'm not going to debate anyone on that point, but if you actually played 6v6 post-GOAT's meta, the game was fun to play. Another thing is that as much as I enjoy a good role queue, I also think that adding that to the game kind of killed it as well. It's become status quo for me to play role queue because I was never a great flex in that game, but Marvel Rivals not adding it forced me to learn how to play Vanguard and pick up a few duelists as well. The game forced me to be versatile, and I've actually started having fun on the game even though I was playing characters that I wasn't good at or didn't know too well. And, luckily for me, Marvel Rivals isn't planning on adding a role queue anytime soon. And I hate to say it, but I bet all the people complaining about not having role queue are the Overwatch players. As I've stated before, the game doesn't need it, but the players do. At this point, you might as well just learn to play different characters, and if you're in quick play, it shouldn't even matter because you're there to have fun. And I do remember seeing mention of the Marvel Rivals devs saying that they were not planning on adding role queue anytime in the future, so sorry not sorry. Overwatch is also a lot slower than Marvel Rivals. I don't know what it is, but games don't take super long unless both teams are really evenly matched. Most of my Rivals competitive games have gone anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes on average. Overwatch has games that can last anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. Having games that are about half that allow you to get in double the amount of games seems like the better option, and I like that I can get out of a bad match quickly instead of being stuck for an extra 10 minutes knowing that we're not going to win. And yeah, it means that I can get more done, but I mainly like it because it doesn't feel like I'm in a Valorant match, which can last a very long time. I also just think it sucks that there's a lot of characters that are going to remain overpowered and oppressive in Overwatch, and there's others that are just going to be at the bottom of the tier list. Mauga and Iati are such powerful characters that not only were they originally locked behind a battle pass, but they also haven't really received any buffs or nerfs that change their impact too much. And don't even get me started on Kiriko, because that is a whole nother video in and of itself. But then, they keep characters like Genji down in the fucking cellar, making him completely shit by not giving him any necessary buffs that would make him good. At least Marvel Rivals makes the effort to balance out characters and make the necessary changes to make the game more engaging and enjoyable. If I'm being completely honest, the only good changes that Overwatch has ever made were when they reverted everything back to the way it was in Overwatch 1. I didn't want to be the one to say it, but I am. Personally, I think the relationship between the two games is that Overwatch needs Marvel Rivals, but Marvel Rivals doesn't need Overwatch. I think that Marvel Rivals wouldn't really change if Overwatch was gone because the game had already learned from Overwatch's mistakes. Instead, I think that Overwatch needs Marvel Rivals to determine what the players are looking for to implement into their game. I don't think Marvel Rivals would get stingy if Overwatch stopped existing. It would probably become more popular, and because the devs listen and care, issues players have would be resolved quickly and efficiently. Overwatch, step up your game, man. Of course, this wouldn't be a Schlorpa video if I didn't add my likes and dislikes at some point, and luckily, I think I can get through this section pretty quickly. I want to start with just how absolutely beautiful the Battle Pass was. Because the season was longer than the previous one, we got a longer Battle Pass. The skins in there were absolutely gorgeous, just like the Season 0 ones. I know I spoke a bit about this earlier, so I won't go too in depth with my glazing, but the skins were so detailed and absolutely wonderful, and it is so good to see some delicious skins in my game. Speaking of the Battle Pass, they added a conversion for chrono tokens to turn into units. Every 1,000 chrono tokens is 100 units, which I think is a really great feature that rewards players for not only completing the Battle Pass, but playing the game and doing challenges once that is complete. This is just such a great thing that was added, and the fact that it was added so soon makes me feel wonderful about having so many of these chrono tokens that I just accumulate and have nothing to do with. Almost all the strategists got pretty good nerf, which I absolutely loved and was absolutely needed. Take this from a person who mains the role, playing against any of the invulnerability ults was torture. It made fights either unwinnable or boring, and when both teams mirrored a strategist ultimate, no one would die, so we might as well just sit there for 10 seconds and take a break. I know that Rogue was leaked as a character, along with Gambit and Nightcrawler, coming to the game further down the line, but with the completion of Season 1, that just means we are one season closer to getting her in the game. Also, we get Emma Frost in Season 2, and Ultron in Season 2.5, so look forward to that. Getting back on topic, this also means that we are super close to getting Jean Grey, and she's one of my favorite Marvel characters as well, so I'm super excited to see her coming out. I've seen possible leaks of what her abilities could be, and I think that from what I've seen, she looks absolutely amazing. And we all know that as soon as she and Rogue come out, I am putting everyone else aside and playing them until I hit Lord and beyond. I really am just ready for any of the X-Men to make their appearances, so whenever they're ready to come out, please drop me them immediately so that way I can nurture myself on the bosom of Peak. I already touched upon this stuff in the competitive area, but I really do like the changes that they made to that space. First off, them adding another rank was absolutely necessary since people tend to be blowing through the lower ranks. The middle ranks were a joke, and only when I made it to Platinum were when things started to get a little more challenging. And most of that challenge didn't come from the gameplay, but rather my teammates not being incredibly competent when it came to communication and composition. So yeah, I really do appreciate the extra rank being added so that way we all weren't clumped together. I also like that they completely changed how they reset the ranks. Everyone complained about it, and they decided to take away the rank deduction that you have to work back for. It was just so great seeing the devs listen to the community on that, and I really liked how easy it was for me to unlock the ranked reward skins for the characters. And speaking of the devs, of course they listen to the community. This is probably one of the only games where they do that. I've played many games, and none of the developers take the time and effort to make quality of life changes that the players want. I know that the devs actually play the game, so they know what is wrong and right with the characters and who may or may not need to be balanced. I mentioned this in my previous video, so I won't go too deep into that again, but it makes me really hopeful seeing the amount of care that goes into the game. Also, just a little tangent that isn't really relevant to the game itself, but the voice actors are super fucking chill from what I've seen. I know a lot of voice actors tend to be super down to earth and stuff, but seeing clips of Nemours and Adam Warlock's voice actors being super chill dudes always warms my heart, especially because of how they interact with the community. I just thought I'd mention that since that brings a smile to my face. I also hate sounding like a broken record, but the skins that were added this season are absolutely beautiful. We still have kept up with the mix of comic skins versus brand new skins, and it's really great just seeing how they redesign them and how quickly they get them out to us. I won't talk too much about the skins anymore, but the designs have yet to get boring, so keep up the good work. I see you artists working your butt off, and I appreciate you. I also have to give a really big shout out to the layout of the screens in the game. It is super well organized, and that's something that you don't really see in games. Things either look too cartoony or too cluttered, and it makes everything look uglier. Luckily, Marvel Rivals does not have that issue, and everything looks clean while maintaining all of the necessary things. And the in-game UI is clean and doesn't look cluttered or too cartoony. The character pages are well organized, and I can't get over the fact that it has a breakdown of the abilities. I wish they added a tiny bit more in the descriptors, since some things aren't explained. And the same thing when viewing the character's abilities in games. Some things are not explained or added in the description that are there. But still, I think it's really interesting that they have that. I'll probably make another video about me completely glazing Marvel Rivals, so I'll end this section here. Now that I've allowed everyone to ascend to heaven, I'm going to grab your ankles and bring you back down to hell for a reality check. To all of you devs who are working on this game, I know that you love and care about this game a lot. I do wonder why your game is so poorly optimized. I don't know what your computers are made out of, but us Americans are having a really hard time with whatever the hell is going on here. Let me start with one of the most frustrating things that happen to me almost every game. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, Moon Knight has no voice line for his ultimate. I hear nothing, and all of a sudden there are hands raining down from the sky and a very hard to see red circle on the ground. Seriously, I never hear his ultimate voice line, and I die. Funnily enough, it's only for him. Every other character's voice line goes through. I don't know what you guys did to him, but I'm starting to feel a lot like Stephen Grant right now because I'm freaking the hell out. I also just want to mention that the amount of illumination for ultimates is so low that it's actually hard for me to see. I don't know how to change the contrast in the game, since I don't think I can, but please add that option, or at least make the ultimates easier to see, because holy shit, I have no idea where the edges of certain ultimates are. Not even colorblind mode has saved me. Speaking of character abilities, I don't know why I have to go through the battle of the PCs whenever Doctor Strange uses a teleport. That thing has almost crashed my old as fuck PC a million times, and my frame rate goes from maximum down to 6. If your PC can't handle that, it becomes impossible for you to play for the next 10 seconds. And it's not even that my PC isn't good. It's actually really good, if not a tiny bit outdated. I'd really like for that to be fixed, since there's a lot of games that use portal concepts, i.e. Portal, and don't make my PC turn to a walking bomb. This next one might also just be a personal issue I have, but I rebound my Chronovision key from B, since that's what I used for push to talk. So now my keybinds have B for push to talk and N for Chronovision. However, whenever I try to use the keybinds, there's a 50% chance that my B key reverts back to being Chronovision and I don't have a push to talk keybind anymore. I actually ended up having to switch my push to talk to V, which is incredibly hard for me and the way that I have my keyboard set up. No other keybind has this issue, by the way, so I'm really hoping that this gets fixed. We can talk about my really horrifying keybinds later. That deserves its own discussion. If I'm going to be nitpicking a little more, why the hell are my shaders taking so long to load every single time I open the game? I know that some games do take a hot second, but sometimes it feels like I just loaded into the shaders to load them in again right after. If I close the game for 5 minutes, it's still taking me ages to reload in all those shaders, which in turn makes me cranky and in need of my bottle of warm milk. That one is just a personal pet peeve of mine, but it does take a hot second for me to load into the game. Another weird thing is that in order for me to stream the game, I need to run my OBS as administrator. I don't think I've had to do this with any other game, but for some reason I need to for this one. It just sucks because sometimes I'll be super ready to stream, and after I get everything set up, I need to make the extra effort to completely close out my OBS so that way I can actually capture my game. I've had streams where I've completely forgotten to do that and captured a blank screen for 2 hours. That was definitely embarrassing and made it super hard for me to record my previous video since all of my footage was unusable. I also need to run Discord as administrator, so that way my keybinds there work when I'm in game. That way whenever I talk in game, my party members in Discord don't hear double voices. They also have to run Discord as administrator, so I don't hear the double voices, which is so small but something we always forget to do, so we always end up hearing double voices and we have to restart our Discord to run it as administrator. It's a huge hassle and something I think could be negated with a little bit of effort. Another crazy thing is the amount of times that I or others have DC'd from games. And I know that my internet isn't the greatest, but it's about average. I never really had an issue DCing in other games, so seeing that for some reason this game wants me to leave so often is crazy. And most of the time, it's not even an internet problem. I've only had one issue with my internet, and that's because my power went out. But every other time, the game simply kicked me out for no reason. That needs to be fixed because this is the only game that I have this issue on. Also, for some reason, my game disconnects every 5 minutes. This causes everyone to walk off in a singular direction, and it lasts for about 5 to 7 seconds. It happens a little too often, and I'm kind of tired of it happening. I just thought I'd add that in there. I have a bit of an issue with how they do penalties in this game. Now, I love the fact that there are penalties for deserters in competitive, which I think is necessary since it's a serious game mode where people grind to achieve higher ranks and prove their skill. If someone leaves the game, they should be penalized. The hard part is that Marvel Rivals doesn't know when someone leaves the game of their own volition or when their game crashes. That means that if you somehow get kicked from the game, you are going to receive the penalty of no RR and a possible deserter penalty. I think I mentioned it earlier, but I got kicked from a competitive game because my game crashed and I joined back in to help win the game, but I still gained no RR and was given a warning. I do like that there are also penalties in quick play, but at the same time, I'm a little conflicted because it's not a serious game mode, so I think people should be able to leave if they need to without penalty. If the game mode is meant to be casual and fun, I think there should be no penalty for leaving quick play, but I do understand why it is there. It's one of those double-edged sword situations where having it is a good thing to stop people from abandoning the game, but it also might make the games less enjoyable for people who join in late or people who need to leave. I'm not really going to nitpick anything else in the game, but I feel like there's a ton of other things that I can go through and talk about. I really just wanted to talk about the crazy poor optimization the game has. I really hope one day soon they fix all of that so that way I don't put my fist through my monitor. Now that I've done my mandatory likes and dislikes, I think that I should go over a couple things that I think should be added or at least considered to make the game a little better and improve its quality of life for the players. Funnily enough, as I mentioned earlier, we are getting the Hellfire Gala skins with Season 2, since that's the theme of the season. I really hope that they add some of the other designs outside of the ones that I've seen, but they did add Widow's skin, which makes me very happy. I know Storm recently got a skin, but her Hellfire Gala skin goes crazy, and Magic has some very good designs that I look forward to seeing as well. It is weird seeing no skins for Emma Frost for the Gala, but hopefully that changes with the release of the season. There's just so many possible skins for this theme that can be done, and I look forward to seeing as many as possible since this is where Peak is born. And as I mentioned in the cosmetics portion of the video, also bring me Disco Dazzler please and thanks. Those designs are absolutely beautiful, and I think it would be a great way to give some characters who might not get the same love as others a chance to have some nice cosmetics. Plus, it's disco themed, and you can't go wrong with that. But I just like the Hellfire Gala designs. These are absolutely beautiful and make all the characters serve. And if I'm talking about cosmetics that need to be added, I would love to see more Adam cosmetics because they are dropping his anti-cunt serving skins. As much as I love all of his cosmetics, I need myself Annihilation Conquest Adam. I need his Infinity Gauntlet design. I need him to be more fuckable. I still absolutely love his Battle Pass skin though, but I don't think you understand what that man has been doing to me for the past 5 years. Keeping this next one short, I know that the devs weren't planning on adding any sort of PvE to the game, but I would like to see some sort of game mode or animation that helps depict the lore end of the game and the characters. As much as I appreciate the little cards on each hero's profile that gives us their backstory, I don't have enough time to read all of that. Another quick note is that I really hope we get more game modes that are permanent fixtures in the game. I've been internally begging for a Spider-Man 2 simulator where I can just swing around with infinite webs. Or just add simple and nice modes that aren't being removed every 3 days and aren't LTMs. For me, I'm thinking of it through the perspective of casual players who might want to have more fun with the game. I think that the game has been shifting a bit towards the Valorant mindset, where every game mode is a warm-up for competitive. I want to make sure that Rivals never goes down that route, because that's what makes Valorant so unbearable to play, and I want to make sure Marvel Rivals stays engaging. One thing I want to talk about is what the game doesn't need to add, and that is a role queue system. In my last video, my opinion on role queue actually changed throughout the video because I wrote it at 2 different times, and I won't lie when I say that my opinion changed and I forgot to change it in the script. Luckily here, I'm going to sort out the confusion and give my final opinion on the matter. This game does not need role queue. I'm really happy that the devs decided not to add it and refused to add it, since I think it makes the game a lot better. Queue times remain super quick, and I'm still allowed to be creative with the team composition that we decide to play. Role queue would have just made everything a lot worse, destroying pre-existing compositions and making queue times absolutely unbearable. Role queue is what originally destroyed Overwatch in my opinion. I think that adding that made the GOATS meta fall apart, and it really snuffed out any creativity you could have had with the compositions. People started queuing up for open and role queue, so the queue times became longer since there weren't as many people queuing up into one game mode. As I've stated before, Marvel Rivals does not need role queue, but the players do. Role queue is the wet dream of people who can only play one specific role or character and don't want to be forced to fill anything else. But I think that if you are playing anything in a competitive scene, you have to be able to flex and play whoever the team needs. If you want to win, sometimes sacrifices have to be made, and that means you might not be able to lock in your DPS. One thing that Overwatch does really well that I think Marvel Rivals could learn from is priority requeue. Basically, if you join an Overwatch game that is already in progress, because you joined the game late, you get priority requeue, meaning that you will queue into new games before other people. Could priority requeue be a scam? It probably is. But does it feel good knowing that you're being a bit compensated for joining a game that is already in progress? Yeah, it does. I have had many occasions in Marvel Rivals where I have joined a game that was already in progress, only for that one to finish up and join into another game that is halfway done. It's pretty annoying, especially because I also have had many games where I joined in the last 3 seconds before the team I joined lost. It's infuriating. I just don't want to wait a million years to join a game that's almost over. Might as well be a me issue though. I don't know if Rivals has it or not, but I'm leaning towards the latter. And no, I'm not gonna check. Real quick before I finish this up, I also want to mention that I think they should change how everyone leaves the voice channel at the end of the game. When you are on the victory or defeat screen, I think they should treat it like Overwatch did in the first game, where you were able to talk while that screen was up. Granted, it only lasted like 45 seconds, but I think it would be nice to let teammates communicate after the game instead of being abruptly cut from the call. I know it most likely would be used only to shit talk other people, but that is my entertainment. Having that extra time at the end could also allow for people to talk with each other, offer up advice, or whatever they need to say instead of having to rush everything out at the end because you're going to get kicked from the channel. I just think it would be a nice change to have and I would really like it. As long as the victory or defeat screen is up, I should be in the voice channel. I saved the best edition for last, and no, I do not take criticism. See, over the Season 1 and 1.5, I've gotten really into playing Adam Warlock now that I can kind of aim. In fact, I even hit Lord on him. This game focuses a lot on mobility for characters, and I mean that a lot of characters have different variations of mobility. Even characters that you wouldn't expect to have mobility have something in their back pocket. But Adam Warlock doesn't have a single type of mobility. For a character who can canonically fly in the comics, my boy is grounded. And I'm not here to start up the whole conversation about video games not needing every character to have mobility, because I agree. I play Apex, and there are plenty of characters who don't have a single bit of mobility in their kit. That has never bothered me, and never will bother me. What does bother me is that not only does the character who can canonically fly not have any movement abilities, but for a game that focuses so heavily on having movement for characters, there are only 2 who don't have anything, Groot and Adam Warlock. And I can make a case for every other character in the game having some sort of movement or method of escape. I've been talking a lot about Apex Legends, and this has helped me come to my conclusion. Give Adam a variant of Ashe's passive dash ability. If you don't know anything about Ashe's rework, or don't even play the game, let me explain it real quick. Ashe now has a passive that can be upgraded where it gives her a singular omnidirectional dash, and it can be upgraded into 2 after leveling up your Evo shield. It has quite a bit of distance and a very quick speed. However, it is on quite a long cooldown. I think you give Adam Warlock her double dash and put both of those dashes on a 6 to 8 second cooldown like his heals. That way, it stays somewhat true to his character without making him overpowered or too hard to hit, and it also fits the theme of all these characters having movement or methods of escape. I also think that he should have the slow fall / slow glide ability that Hela, Scarlet Witch, and Doctor Strange have. Again, he can canonically fly, so let's stay true to the source material and not have him run like he's 9 months pregnant. Without picking too hard, that's really all I have at the moment for my opinions on what should be at least considered. The game is still pretty new, so I don't have to go too hard on it, but hopefully, as time goes on, we see more. And that really sums up my little update on Season 1 and 1.5. Overall, the season was pretty good, and I can only see the game going up from here. This was a great start, and I'm excited to see what Season 2 and beyond brings to the table. I don't think that we're getting any 0.5 seasons anytime soon, since we only got that for the Fantastic Four, so I'm excited to see how that changes the seasons in the future, whether it be the time for the seasons or anything like that. But I know that whatever we get, it's going to be great, and we will be eating good. Hopefully, by the time I upload my next Marvel Rivals video, I will have hit the diamond rank and can be considered semi-good at the game, but right now, I'm cool with where I'm at. Anyways, there should be a card on screen that will take you to the first video I made on Marvel Rivals. If you enjoyed this one, please leave a like and subscribe, and don't forget to comment. I always try to read and respond to all of the ones that I can. As always, this has been Schlorpa, and I'm going to play some Overwatch to make every other game look more enticing.